Hello and welcome to a new edition, a new episode of the Dugout podcast. I'm Andrew, alongside my co-host Marissa, and we're back. 2023. We want to say a special Happy New Year to everyone. Hope everyone year goes great.
Yep.
As you can see, we spent some time and we redecorated. Our winter break was not spent just hibernating on food, but we
Well,
we decorated.
yeah.
Right. So a lot to get into.
Yeah.
It's been two weeks or so since the season resumed, and we're excited for the second half of the season.
Are we?
Well, from a I guess from a broadcast pundit point of view, I am.
Okay.
From a fan, not so much,
Okay.
but it's not about me.
Yeah.
It's about us delivering great content.
True.
And there's no better place to start than the Manchester Derby. Manchester United with a big win against their local rivals, Manchester City.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a turnaround from that 6-1 defeat back at the Etihad.
Huge turnaround.
Yep, huge turnaround.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll let you take it away, Marissa.
Yeah. I have to say this game kind of solidified why I feel Manchester United are making progress under Ten Hag. And it's not just the fact that it wasn't a 6-1.
Mm-hmm.
It's also the fact that they look like a coached side.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows their role. And let's give City their credit. I felt City was in control for most of the game. And when the first goal went in, I expected a City win.
Mm-hmm.
But Manchester United had moments, they had opportunities, they hung in there, and they troubled City at certain points. So when Jack Grealish scored, it was like, okay, it should be a routine City win. But then the moment happens. The moment that I'm sure we get into, because I have not heard your thoughts on this, so should be interesting. Was the win deserved? They outscored City, so you could say that it was deserved. But honestly, I think Manchester City have every right to feel hard done by. But I also think it's symptomatic of City not really being the usual City selves.
Right.
Against Chelsea, I think they played Chelsea last week, right? In
the league, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and they won 1-0.
Against Chelsea, right. Against Chelsea, a Chelsea side with basically a whole first team out. Arguably, Chelsea could feel unlucky not to at least got a point from that game. I feel like Chelsea had moments, and as usual, goal scoring is an issue. I felt like, yes, City had their moments in the game against Chelsea, but I feel like watching City against a clear BRC side of Chelsea, it was an indication to me that the Manchester Derby was going to be competitive,
Right.
in my opinion. And I just don't think City look like themselves, but I still expected them to win this game.
Mhm.
But all in all, I have to give Jack his jacket. I think Ten Hag is doing a great job at Manchester United, to be honest. How he's handled off the field issues, how he is handling the team and the squad, how he's handling a period where, he has to basically make do with whatever money he has or doesn't have. And I think he's getting a tune out of these players. For how long, I don't know. I still think Manchester United squad needs work.
Right.
But yeah, I still think that City can feel hard done by though. And the biggest disappointment for me is that I wonder if we can look back at this game and think, was this the time Arsenal won the title? That's the biggest disappointment. But
Well,
yeah.
well, Arsenal fan, she said it, not me.
You were thinking it.
Not necessarily. And we are going to talk about Arsenal a bit
Yeah,
later
we will.
on in the show. But let me see. My thoughts on the game. I felt that, like you said, Ten Hag has done a great job. You can see difference in terms of Manchester United, in terms of how organized they were.
Yeah.
Because if you look at if you recall the game against City, the first game at the Etihad when they lost 6-1, it was purely down to Manchester United being too open, being too disorganized.
Yeah.
On Saturday they were really, really compact, really well organized. Nice manageable spaces between the lines and stuff like that. It was difficult for City to play through and penetrate, so City had to go down these sides, and I think that's the credit to Ten Hag. City had most of the ball, I mean, you said like you felt City was always in control. I felt Man U had better chances in the first half. Had they used the chances better, Rashford had one where he shot and it was blocked on the lane.
Yeah, I remember that.
Man U had about 2 or 3 good,
Okay.
I would say, genuine goal scoring opportunities in that first half.
It was the Rashford chance, and then Bruno had one early.
Right, and then there's another one too. And they had one where, I think the Rashford one was the one where Edison rushed off the goal lane.
Right, that's the one I was thinking. But I think there was another one for.
I think there was another two, at least 2 genuine chances that United created. And it felt like, for me watching the game, I felt as though because they didn't use their chances, I felt, okay, City would definitely improve after the break.
And they did.
And City would get the goal. And like you said, they did. City upped the tempo. They got the goal through a vintage City move. They run that play all the time. But a good goal nonetheless. But Man U still kept it well. And at that stage, it looked like Man U might lose their discipline a bit. But then they got the little breakthrough with the goal. And I can talk about it in one go quickly.
Okay.
The question is whether or not Rashford is definitely offside, in my opinion. The question is, did Rashford interfere with play? Right? Now, here's the thing. Rashford's run, right? Actually, a couple things. I think I saw a clip with Pep Guardiola where he said it best. Man City's lane, because of Rashford's run, their lane is where they are. And they've played Rashford onside, who Rashford's run follows the trajectory of the ball. Rashford never breaks a stride. Yes, from where the ball was played in trying to recover, Akanji and Kyle Walker, for example, can't get there. But the point is that Rashford has not broken his stride. You can see Bruno Fernandes coming late. Edison got Rashford to the left and Fernandes coming to the right. It is going to put off a keeper. It's going to have some bearing on the outcome. And in my opinion, the goal should have been ruled out for offside. It's a shame that we're talking about it because had the referee had VAR, but I guess VAR apparently couldn't get involved because it wasn't a clear and obvious error. That's what they said.
Is that a joke?
I'm very serious. Wow. I'm being very serious. Because they said because of the law and because Rashford actually didn't play the ball, it was a question of whether or not it's a clear and obvious error. Now, they think, right, if Rashford had stopped running off the ball and, like some players do when they're in an offside position, I would have said fine. But the fact he's literally still running towards goal, step for step, almost like he's shielding the ball for Rashford for Fernandes to come and knock it in the net. I have a big problem with that. And I understand my United fans being happy. But like I said, as I've, aged and become more mature, I always ask myself, if that had been Liverpool and that goal went against me, how would I feel? And I would have been pissed off to the highest degree. So it's one of those where I think City, for that reason, could feel unlucky. But what I want to mention was that I want to give credit to Man U because I think Man U's game plan, their defensive work, and in fact, I did have the better chances. Because had Man U used the chances in the first half, I felt we could have been looking at halftime at least 2-0, maybe 3. I think Man U had the better chances. City didn't have a shot on target in the first half. So, and then I think the second goal is just a case where City didn't recover, from that knock, so to speak. And Man U got the, quick double whammy. And it's a shame because people will talk about the VAR goal. Should it have been disallowed? Should it have been allowed? I've given my take on it. But it's a shame in the sense that I feel like Man U were the better side on the day. I think Man U executed better than City did. And like you said, City has had a dip this year, which is expected. He can't be that good consecutively 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 years on the spin. A slight little dip. The defeat in terms of their title ambitions, I don't think is lethal. I think they still have a chance.
8 points.
Is 8 points? We know City's capable of playing and run together. So what I'm saying is not lethal in terms of we're not at the halfway point. There's still a lot of games to go. They can still perhaps put a run together and get,
And to be fair, you beat Arsenal twice, brings it to 2 points. So yeah, I mean it's not over.
Right. It's not over. But that's my take on it.
So this is my issue, right? And I don't bother to really read up on the rules of football because I find it's not necessarily the rule, it's how it's applied.
Right.
Because he didn't touch the ball, but something like that, you cannot go letter of the law. Like you said, he has not broken his stride. Like there was an angle where he saw, I can't remember which angle, but it almost looked like he was gonna take a shot.
Yeah.
Like he was running, he didn't shape to take a shot, but how he was kind of like his stride was almost like I'm gonna take a shot. And City's defenders, and like you said, Edison, are clearly defending, thinking Rashford is going to take a shot. So whether or not he touches the ball or not, he is interfering with play.
Mm-hmm.
He is 100% interfering with play, and I do not understand how people. And I think I saw some footballers tweeting about how these people have clearly not played the game because psychologically, City and Edison are defending Rashford. Psychologically, because Rashford is the one with the ball at his feet, they're not going. Even though they may think that he's offside, you can't stop. They always say play to the whistle. So psychologically, they are defending Rashford. So I just don't understand how that goal was given. I do not understand it.
But I just want to add something quickly. The linesman did raise his flag, and I think this is where that rule about when a guy's offside, the linesman is told to let him play go a little bit longer and then raise the flag after, whatever the case would be. This is where that rule comes back to bite you because if the player stops immediately when he raises his flag and Rashford is offside, as we can see, meant towards the ball, then it won't be a non-issue. Like I said, it's how it's interpreted. But like I said, I mentioned the linesman because the linesman did raise his flag. It was the on-field official who said, Bruno came from an onside position, we let the goal stand. And to me, it's like I said, it's foolishness. It's difficult to explain. I would ask Man U fans to just put themselves, imagine if you were on the opposite side of that decision, how would you react? I'm pretty sure.
To be fair, I'm seeing some on Twitter that actually acknowledge that.
Right.
It was a lucky break. They're happy, but I think they acknowledge some logical thinking ones acknowledge that is not a goal.
And like I said, it is a pity that we're talking about this VAR decision because what I would like to talk about, we've already mentioned it, but what I would like to talk about is the fact that Man U were really good, really executed. And I mean, like you said, I think the Man U squad still needs work. I saw a few of Man U's games before the derby. I think I saw them play Wolves and someone else. And I wasn't necessarily impressed in terms of how they were playing, but, they came with a game plan against Man U and they were disciplined. Yeah. Every man to a T. Fred, Casemiro. You see difference with Casemiro in terms of midfield.
Huge difference.
Because when he wins the ball, he's not going to waste it.
I actually had that as something to talk about because I remember at the beginning of this season after Man United lost to Brighton and Brentford, we talked about their midfield. We talked about how poor it is. And you just stick. Obviously, it still needs work, but you stick Casemiro in there and it's like a side transformed. Right. It's amazing. Yeah, well, not amazing, but that's what a good quality defensive midfielder gives you. So, yeah, kudos to them. Do you think they're going to get top four?
I think when we did the little fun at the end of last year, I think I put them in my top four, right?
No, I can't remember.
I can't remember. Maybe we should check it. But I think I might, or if I did, I maybe just had them missing out.
Okay, but no. You think they're going to make top four?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I think they're. I think they will be third or fourth in the table. Third or fourth. So at this stage right now, like I said, it's maybe we have to say with this predictions. Our predictions are
halfway through the season.
Yeah, I think we must remind folks that our predictions are fluid. They're subject to change.
It's true, week to week, sometimes day to day.
Exactly. So, but as of this moment, I would say yes, they're looking good for top four. All right, and that brings us to what Marissa alluded to. Is this the moment where Arsenal won the title? Brings us to the North London Derby. And I think I'll go first on this one.
No problem.
Since you went first on the last topic. Right, so I remember for a fact that I picked Tottenham to gain top four.
I did that though.
I remember you did it as well, exactly. I let hold all these teams this year try and make me laugh. But
oh boy.
Let me talk about Tottenham first. Tottenham, I don't know, they seem to be having difficulty asserting themselves at the start of games. And it's always like they have to come from behind. And I think that is a problem. And it's like they're being outplayed. It's almost like they're slow starters. Um, Statistically, that shows. Like I said, and we spoke about the Mayu squad. I know Tottenham spent some money, but their squad needs some work as well. You can't win nothing with Hugo Lloris doing the, you know, tomfoolery that he does. You know, and he does it more often than not. He's really, really error prone. And I always said he had powder puff hands. But anyhow, he's a problem. Aradaya and them, ain't the solution. Conte is more of a win no manager as well. So it's gonna be interesting, where they finish this season and what bearing that will have on them going forward. You understand? And it's really, I don't know. But in terms of watching the game, we'll talk about the game quickly. Arsenal dominated, really better side, clearly. Had most of the ball, had most of the play. I think the problem that Tottenham had with Arsenal, and I think for most of the games that I've seen Arsenal this season, it has stood true to a certain extent. Arsenal so they've kind of started out the defensive problems to a certain extent.
Yeah, they have.
And they always play nice, flowing football.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the problem that teams have with Arsenal is that when they commit too many bodies forward, Arsenal is so good at winning the ball back and then breaking really quickly because they have pace up front in Saka and Martinelli.
Mm-hmm.
And, technical players like Odegaard and can't remember the NFL game. But Odegaard who got past the ball really well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like Arsenal are beating people in transition. Like I watched the game and I look at the formation when Arsenal occupied possession and Arsenal were almost playing left. I don't know if you noticed it, but it seemed like they had like a back five at one stage or a back six. But as soon as that ball turns over, the red shirts just fled forward seamlessly. And it seemed like if Tottenham were second to every challenge. I'm not sure if Tottenham were up for the game. I don't want to accuse them of that.
Yeah, if that's the case, that's awful.
Yeah, but it seemed like, I don't know, it seemed like Tottenham was second favorite to everything. But like I said, I think if Tottenham really wants to challenge a top any league, they need to either develop the best in class or go and buy the best in class. You know what I'm saying? I know they have a roughly best in class in Harry Kane. But my question though, I don't know how much years he got left on that contract, but he's 29.
I hear rumors that he may move at the end of this season.
Somebody, by Tottenham fan alerted me to that. Cause I think he was linked with. I think I heard his name linked with a transfer to Man U, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which wouldn't surprise me if Man U test the waters a bit. But like I was saying, coming off the World Cup, I felt as if it make it go either way. Harry Kane, I think if Harry Kane can leave and go to a club and win trophies, I think he would. Mm-hmm. But I don't think he's the sort of personality to force a move either.
Right.
So so I think like, I don't know. It's really interesting, but I think Harry Kane is. I think it's kind of the balance. I'm not sure which way that would turn. But then again, like the question, because we've seen this picture a lot, many times before. You sell your best player for a lot of money, and then you spend a bucket load of it, buying a number of players instead of buying that one or two players that would really make a difference. So how do you go about it this time? I don't know. Interesting, but. Tottenham didn't do nothing first half, and second half it was definitely a moment too high to claim. Arsenal defended well. We have to give them credit. I think the Ramsdale has really I don't want to say matured, but he's having a good season. Exactly. And the boy Saliba and Gabriel seem to have a nice understanding.
Yeah.
And then the other players that that you wouldn't necessarily have classed as top quality players. Mm-hmm. And I'll call names. Chinchenko at the bay. Mm-hmm. Tommy Yasu, for example. Ben Waits. Not saying they're bad players, but we wouldn't necessarily call them, you wouldn't have gone into this season saying they were the best in the league. Mm-hmm. They have really, been playing at a really high level consistently so far. Mm-hmm. It's a long way to go yet. I think their next couple of fixtures, I think they play Man U soon, and I do believe they play City soon as well.
Maybe next. I think Man U may be next. I'll check on that.
I think they play both Manchester clubs soon though. So, I guess those games will determine whether or not, they're pulled back to the pot. Or whether or not they extend it. Man U on Sunday.
And that is at
Emirates. Yeah, because the other one was at Old Trafford. Yeah, so those games will determine whether or not they're pulled back to the pot or they extend the lead further. I pull further away.
Okay, so you finished with Arsenal, so I'll start with Arsenal.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, credit where credit is due. Arsenal are, I don't want to call them a first half side because that would be doing an injustice.
Right.
But Arsenal start games really well.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really well. I have not watched them much this season for obvious reasons.
Interesting. Because they're not losing?
But, yeah. But when I have watched Arsenal, that's the one thing that has stood out to me. They start really well and they assert themselves on games. So you have an Arsenal side that start really well and a Spurs side that starts poorly. Recipe for disaster. But like you say, in second half, they defended really well. Ramsdale made some excellent saves. I didn't watch the game. I just watched the highlights. I stayed away because I didn't expect Spurs. I was hoping that Spurs would do you a little favor, but you can't rely on them, man.
Right.
But Ramsdale made some great saves, and like you said, I think that their players, all of them, are all having excellent seasons. And it's like, I remember I was sitting in my car the other day, I was thinking, I said on the podcast that I felt Arsenal missed their shot last season by not getting top four. I felt like with so many teams around them struggling, that season was the best time for them to get in top four. But everybody has gone from like almost here to here. Their level has just risen fantastically well. So I have to give them credit. Whether the title is over, I don't see. I mean, it pains me to say it, but honestly, I don't. Unless City shapes up, unless the teams like Man United and Liverpool and Arsenal, not Arsenal, Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea, start taking points off of Arsenal, I don't see how they're going to stop though. I mean, to be honest, I think Arsenal are probably an injury or two away from, suffering. Because I look at Man U, for instance. Man U, and I heard some Man U fans talking about it. Man U has a good first 11, I would say.
Right.
But it's when they're struggling in games, who are they going to bring on? I think Arsenal has a similar issue, especially with Jesus' injury. If Arsenal continue to start well and get on the front foot early, they're going to win their games. But let's say a Partey, who has been so crucial for them, gets injured. Or a Zinchenko, who has been excellent at left back, gets injured. Or one of the centre backs gets injured. I think you're going to see a different Arsenal. But for right now, they seem to have a great understanding. They seem to be playing well. They're all fit. They're all healthy. And I don't know who's going to stop them. So as I said, I think based on the highlights I saw, well deserved. We won't. You said enough about Lloris. Won't talk about him because I don't know how that goal went in. I really don't understand how that went in. But Spurs. You mentioned just now that Spurs are either going to have to develop well or buy well. Both of those are going to be difficult. Conte is not a developed manager. And if Spurs continue to slide down the table, which I expect them to do, it's going to be hard for them to buy well. You look at teams like Chelsea and Liverpool who will invest well, even though they may be outside of Europe right now. Man United, if they get sold to the right owners, they will also invest. And obviously Arsenal is there too. City is there. It's going to be hard for Spurs to buy. Like you say, if they sell Harry Kane theoretically, it's going to be hard for them to buy the one or two top quality players. Spurs are still going to want to go there. But are they the quality to take Spurs to the next level? I've watched enough of Spurs this season to say to myself, you mentioned it too. You said Spurs almost are like a second half team. My issue is this has been this way since before the World Cup. Why is it still continuing? What do you think is down to? Is it down to the players' mentality? Or is it down to the manager? Because I do not understand how you can see one or two games before the World Cup, how your side plays, and then they come back and fall into the same patterns. Because they were better in the second half. So, what do you think is down to?
Well, I can't put my finger on it. But it's almost like, similarly with Liverpool, they don't look sharp at start games right now. Because, I mean, like, Arsenal just they have more energy. They definitely have more purpose. So I'm not sure like if it's a case where, because we look at Tottenham team that started the game, it doesn't seem like, I don't know if they had like if they had like the greatest conviction in whatever the attacking plan was. So it didn't seem like if they were, they were playing any patterns. There were any patterns to the play. We saw a pattern to Arsenal's play. Win the ball back. Well, it won't play as simple as that. When the main Spurs attack brought it down, and like I said, Arsenal had that nice big wall of five at the back. To me, before when they didn't have the ball. When Arsenal won the ball back, they sprung really, really quickly using Nketiah's pace. He's a guy that I forgot to mention. His pace, Saka's pace, Martinelli's pace. And if you look at Saka and Martinelli, both are very direct players, good dribblers with the ball. Right? And Odegaard passes the ball well. Partey's like similar to like, I don't want to say he's the same level, but he does the similar thing to what Casemiro does. When he gets by the ball, he's not going to give it away cheaply. At least not in every possession. And Saka's been playing well this season too. So, and it felt like if you look at Tottenham's back line, Romero, Dyer, who else played in that back line?
Longley sometimes.
Doherty played right wing back. And those are not necessarily athletic players. You know, so like that, I think Arsenal's pace on transition is what was really giving them problems. And then they were finding it difficult to, you know, play out necessarily through the middle.
Yeah.
And Arsenal's press was good too. So, and Harry Kane struggled again in the first half. So, but I don't know what it is that Tottenham. Like I said, I can't fathom. I can't imagine that Conte says, well, we just want to be 0-0 at halftime, or we don't want to take the lead. I don't think that's what happens at all.
I think for me, what's most confusing is these are your greatest rivals at home. You literally beat them last season to dump them out to the top 4. You should have been up for this. They're literally on their way to the title. There's no greater motivation that Tottenham has. How could you start a game so poorly with all of that? Yes, like you say, you point out all the good that Arsenal doing, but the least that Spurs could be, even if they're second best, the least you could show is passion, purpose, you know? And you just did not see that. At least from the highlights I saw, it just seemed, I don't know. But I opened my phone to look at the standings, and I worry for Spurs, to be honest. Right now, they're 5th. They're 5 points behind Man United, haven't played a game more. And I worry for them because I know we're going to talk about our favorite Liverpool and Chelsea soon. But I fully expect that if Liverpool picks up form, which I expect them to do.
Yeah, at least one of us.
If Chelsea picks up form, which I hope they would do, I think that they both have a great opportunity of finishing above Spurs because Spurs are only 5 points ahead of both Chelsea and Liverpool. You have played a game less. Me and Spurs have played the same amount of games. And I worry that Spurs are going to finish at least maybe 8th, 9th if they don't shape up. And the only players I've seen them linked with in January so far is a right back. I mean, which is strange because he usually sometimes plays Perisic there, Doherty there. Got the fellow Jed Spence that he made his Spurs debut yet.
Don't think so.
But yet they're linked with another right wing back. It just seems strange to me. And I think they have other issues they need addressing. They need to address. So I worry for Spurs, to be honest. I do.
Something I want to mention though about Arsenal's title bid. And no, it's not. It's not like that, Marissa.
All right.
But question, where Arsenal finished 5th last season, right?
No, Arsenal finished 5th.
Arsenal finished 5th last year?
Yeah, I remember that. They were right there in top 4 and then,
I forget.
Spurs,
Oh, yeah.
So it was 5th.
It was a year before. 1 year and they finished like 7th.
It was in Arteta's either first or second season.
Right. Maybe I'm mistaken. So my bad. Well, let me take that back then. Thank you for saving me on that one,
You're
though.
welcome.
But I mean, like I must say, I think when I talked about Arsenal last year, I remember I said I felt like it would take Arsenal maybe 3-4 seasons before they can, be in the league again. And considering how things were going, how strong the other teams around them looked.
Right.
And it's really, really unusual in a sense for a team to go 5th to 1st in a space of, 3 months in the break, in summer break.
Went from relegation to title.
That's weird. That's a one-off. But it doesn't usually happen, though. It doesn't usually happen. Normally, you might find a team that finish, let's say, 5th, 6th, until next year, immediately. So, I mean, you have to give credit where credit is due. I didn't expect I thought the recruitment was good when they signed Jesus and Zinchenko, but I still felt as though that was more like a building block as opposed to the final piece. So, yeah, I have been surprised by Arsenal's form, by their renaissance. They look good.
Yeah.
They look the part.
Yeah, I still hope they don't win the league though. But anyways,
I'm not even going to say anything about that. But I have no ill will, no bad wishes to Arsenal.
It's not bad wishes. It's just look, Arsenal fans on football Twitter are insufferable.
Being as that,
Can't deal with them if they win the title. Oh God, mute everything Arsenal on my Twitter.
Safe. Being as that, though, I feel as though we should be gracious. And if Arsenal do win the title,
Jackie Jacket.
We
will give Jackie Jacket. We will review. We will do everything.
And plus, I like Bukayo Saka too. So not my boy. Not my boy.
Reserve comment.
All right. So our next on the agenda, we're gonna
Let me get to the depressing topics. Though.
Depressing topics, correct. Liverpool's malaise, and we came up with this topic after the Brighton debacle. The Brighton fall apart.
Debacle indeed.
The massacre at the Amets, as they like to call it. I watched the game, and immediately after the third goal by Danny Welbeck, when the football get his stage, that Danny Welbeck, he's a bad player. But when the football get his stage, and Danny Welbeck a hat by the centre back, I score.
Flick, volley.
I score. Exactly, hat my centre back. I score a lovely goal. It must, I understand it's time for me to depart. And that's exactly what I did. I was at somebody's establishment watching the game. I ain't meant to watch the game. It's just that I went to watch the derby and then the game came on after. But when that happens, it's time for me to depart people's establishment. So I pay the bill, get a check, depart the establishment, go home and rest myself. Right? And I know I don't call myself a prophet, but I said from the start of the season that I felt like this year might be a growing pain season. Especially considering that tremendous run we went to on the second half of last season. I felt like it might be a little bit of a come down. It looked that way. No, don't get me wrong. I didn't expect it to be this bad. I didn't expect to see. And the thing is, right, you can lose a game. And anyone can lose a game. But it's the manner in which you lose. And I think that was probably the worst performance that I can remember. And I think I've watched most of Liverpool's games under Klopp since he took charge. That's the worst performance I've seen from a Liverpool side. There was nothing positive about it. We looked open. Brighton looked like they could have scored with every attack well before they eventually scored. And I think it's amazing how Brighton threatened all first half, and then Joe Matic come and give people a present. I started the second one, and second goal was a really, really good goal too.
Excellent finish.
Yeah, but it's not really about the Brighton Liverpool game. It's more about Liverpool's season. And, are there any signs or are there any hopes of recovery? No, they won this evening against Wolves in the FA Cup, which Wolves got to be angry about because
they should be.
We should have been beaten from the first initial game in the FA Cup against them. But somehow, VAR worked in our favor and decided that,
as always,
something was amiss. Actually, no, it wasn't VAR. It was similar to what happened against Arsenal where the linesman raised his flag for offside and apparently VAR didn't have the angle to check to confirm or not, so they just stuck with the linesman's decision. Really, really interesting. Yeah. So Liverpool season. I think most of Liverpool's key players have been playing badly. Salah has looked off it. Trent has done Trent things. Van Dijk had a bit of a bounce back. He started the season for sure. He injured now. We had a few injuries, but the thing is, the injuries that we've had, I wouldn't say that they're key. Sorry, they're key important members of the squad, but I wouldn't say that they've been injuries to the spine of the team. I think the spine of the team have just been underperforming.
Alisson.
Yeah, even Alisson started making mistakes.
Yeah.
So I just feel like I don't think, like I said, my position is still the same. I don't think there needs to be a massive overhaul of the squad, but I do feel as if, and I think Klopp has started to do it anyways, it's going to be an incremental, transition of certain players.
And even though when I robbed Wolves in the FA Cup, when I won rob the man from the midfield too.
Who's that? Neves?
The guy, I heard links to Neves, but there's a guy that they recently signed. I can't remember his name. I'll find out. But Wolves signed him in the summer.
But here's the thing. I remember saying from one of our first episodes that you could argue that Liverpool needed a midfielder from the summer. That was clear. I think, but you see, it has been compounded by a lot of things. If you think about it, Henderson has been in and out of the team for the entire season with injury and different little issues.
Right.
Milner has been, not he's played every game, but he's been in and out too with injury. Fabinho has had his worst season for Liverpool in terms of form.
It's true.
Real, bad it.
And he has been so key to y'all
Exactly.
over the years.
Thiago, I don't think Thiago's played badly, but Thiago doesn't have the legs to last, that sort of intensity football for 90 minutes without help. For sure. So he struggled as games have worn on. When things haven't been going right. So my whole thing is that, like, you could, and I remember I said a lot would have depended on the development of, for example, Harvey Elliott and Curtis Jones. Harvey has shown inexperience at times in the midfield, and Jones has also been affected by injury. And then you had the other ones like, say, Chamberlain and Naby Keita, who we know are, decent players, I guess, when they're in form.
It's time for him to go.
Both of them are off contract in summer, and as I expected, they would, you're gonna look for new blood.
Yeah.
But I wasn't worried about it going into the season. I'm still not worried about it because my whole thing is that from how Jurgen Klopp operates as a manager, if once he identifies a player, if he doesn't, he is that player, is nobody else, and they can work with what they got until they find my next target, whoever that may be. Okay. So in the summer they wanted Tchouaméni, went to Real Madrid. Begin with. So I mean, like, I didn't expect it to be this bad because they didn't expect the others to have such poor seasons. But I realistically, I assume that Klopp probably has his targets for the summer lined up already, and he knows who he wants, and God willing, he get them. Because if he doesn't get a player he wants, is nothing.
So the player y'all linked to from Wolves is Matheus Nunes.
Oh,
he moved there in the summer.
Okay.
So the thing about that is, I think he moved for about 38 million pounds.
Okay.
So Wolves didn't want that bad and more for him.
Possibly.
So we're probably looking at maybe 50, 60 million for him. If y'all go for him in the summer.
If you go for him. But I mean, like I said, it's more case where the squad is freshening up. So like you mentioned, Keita Ox need to go. Well, they need to go. But they're going. Right? I
said Ox needs to go. I would still keep Naby. You know how I feel about Naby.
How you feel about Naby? Tell me.
I like Naby. Naby's a good little player to have around.
You like your name?
We all know how you feel about Naby.
I don't honestly know, but the thing is, right? I do. Right, Naby has been at Liverpool. I think it must be about 4 seasons now. Maybe this is his fourth season.
Hasn't really done much.
And it's not he's a bad player. I will maintain it's not he's a bad player, but he has never found the form that made or convinced Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp to spend the 60-odd million that they did, on him.
He cost 60 million?
He cost, it was like 58 to 60 million. Okay. He was an expensive buy. I think he was probably the only expensive Liverpool signing on the club that hasn't really worked out. And it's been because of injuries. So it's not like I'm criticizing him and saying he's a bad player, because it's almost weird. Whenever Naby had 5, 6, 7 games and he seemed to have been getting rhythm, injury pops up, groin, hamstring, something. You understand? Like,
right.
So I mean, it's not really worked out. So, this, and there's certain parts of the squad that I think, maybe have gone a bit still. I was thinking about it the other day. Matip, I think Matip is a good player, but he's been there about 6 seasons, going 7. You know what I'm saying? Maybe certain areas of the squad need a bit of a freshening up, need a bit of a new face. And we know that how Liverpool spends, or Liverpool's transfer policy is going to be a combination of feeding new blood from the academy. We saw we're saying Stefan Bajcetic, the defensive mid, Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones, they're getting games. Ben Doe is the one who's been featuring a bit more regularly of late. And then where possible, you try to add some signings to it. And coaching, I believe. I think Liverpool will be back. Like I said, the key, this season might be I don't want to call it a wash because we're not even halfway yet. But in terms of, you might still be able to establish top 4. Maybe it's still there. Maybe. I'm not really confident about it, but hey, it's either here or there. He's still in the FA Cup. He got Rally Champions League. They've been having their problems too. So the season might not be a wash. It's still something to play for at the end of the day. And even if you can't get top 4, just try to get as many points as you can and see what happens. Build a confidence going in the next one. But the most important thing, like I said, is that the fans, the general, perception of the public does not turn against Jurgen Klopp and decide that he's the one that needs to go. Because I tell you, no, you get rid of Jurgen Klopp too soon, it is curtains, it's nothing.
Yeah, because they ain't much better there.
It's back to dark ages. There's nothing else out there for me. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know. I just want Liverpool fans not to be so fickle that they, start to clamor for the manager's head. Stick with him. Stick with the team. I think they're good players. They didn't just transform overnight. They're just having a bad spell. They'll play their way out of it eventually. I believe. You can go if you want to say anything about Liverpool.
Not really. I have my thoughts on Liverpool, but I want to lump them with Chelsea a bit.
All right, go ahead.
To be honest.
You can start with Chelsea.
So you aptly titled this segment, How Much Time Should They Give Potter? As much time as Potter wants. Look, honestly, my views are, I think that, I'll start with this. Chelsea have been slammed.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I see that Liverpool and Chelsea basically got identical records in Premier League, but Liverpool ain't being slammed to the extent that Chelsea being slammed.
I haven't been comparing.
I compare because I have to, because I find the media perception of my club is ridiculous. I'll use the transfer of Madrid in a bit to show you why I think it's ridiculous.
Good.
But I just find it interesting that when teams have injuries, you hear all the excuses.
Mm-hmm.
But where's the sympathy when we have 11 first-team players injured?
Mm-hmm.
That's like almost a full team. I actually heard a rival fan say the team that Chelsea has injured currently could probably beat the team that we playing on most days. Now, this is no excuse for some of the appalling performances I've seen. Mm-hmm. Because even though you have injuries, those players that Potter puts out there can do way better than they do. And I also think he has made some selection decisions that have confused me as well. So he's not blameless. But I saw after the Fulham defeat that the owners are going to commit to a squad overhaul, which I think is long overdue. Mm-hmm. I think that I am not going to judge Potter. I'm not going to be... You talk about Liverpool fans not being fickle and turning. Obviously, Klopp has credit in the bank. Mm-hmm. But the reason I say that about Chelsea fans is that you cannot want a man that has had to deal with the things he's had to deal with. In my opinion, it's too early to be calling for Potter's head. Mm-hmm. Give the man next season with players that he buys, what he does on the training ground, and go from there. I've actually seen people discrediting the work Potter did at Brighton. Praising his name is De Zerbi. For how Brighton is playing without acknowledging that Potter put a lot of the building blocks there at Brighton after it was Chris Hughton that used to manage them after he left.
I'm not sure. I think it might be Hughton for true.
Yeah, the dart fellow.
Yeah,
right.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I think Potter, it might have been. It was. You're right.
Potter absolutely transferred Brighton, but now I see De Zerbi, who's been there for 4 months, getting all the credit for how Brighton is playing. Mm-hmm. That's ridiculous. So for me, I think that one of the criticism I have of Potter is that he needs to be way more ruthless with some of those players. I think players like Jorginho needs to be moved on. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I think that there are a lot of other players in that dressing room that need to go. And from what I see, the owners are committing to a squad overhaul to get rid of the toxicity, get rid of the players that aren't giving their all, and then we can judge. I've been really disappointed watching Chelsea this season, but I've learned emotional detachment. So now I can actually watch them and not want to pelt things at my TV or anything. But I have washed off this season. I have called this season a dead season. Mm-hmm. But what I want to do is see progress in terms of style of play, in terms of selections, and just in terms of the overall attitude of the players. The reason why I want to lump it with Liverpool is... And there's no disrespect. I know you said at the beginning, growing pains, transition, whatever. Mm-hmm. Chelsea has more reason to use that excuse than Liverpool, in my opinion. We had to change our ownership. We had to change our manager. Mm-hmm. Rebuilding a new squad. We are actually a club in transition. But there doesn't seem to be anybody that is acknowledging that. People are more focused on criticizing. I saw Carragher criticizing Graham Potter. I think what he said that you should not compare Potter's start to it's good.
You're very cool.
It's good out of our new cups. Okay.
They ain't there for just still, you know. Keep going.
Potter should not be lumped with Klopp and Arteta because Klopp and Arteta both had terrible starts. Klopp finished 8th. Arteta also finished 8th.
Right.
Last season, people seem to forget that Arsenal lost their first 3 games in a row.
Right.
But Carragher saying, "Oh, Potter doesn't deserve that same sort of sympathy," and I'm like, seriously, why not? He's coming into a job, his first. Well, I don't want to say his first big job, but his biggest job to date. He's coming into a team that is in transition because of players and ownership and how things work behind the scenes. Because that's the other thing. A lot of people don't know the overhaul that is happening behind the scenes. Our entire recruitment has been dissolved to bring in new people. The academy is changing up, the medical staff. So I'm like, nobody seems to have sympathy for Potter, but all the sympathy for the Klopps and the Artetas when they were struggling. I see people complaining about how much money we're spending. When Arsenal have spent upwards of 400 million over the last few years, but nobody's talking about that. Manchester United have spent close to 500 million over the last few years. No one talks about that. So this is not me defending Chelsea. I personally believe that players need to give more. Potter also needs to step up. But I also believe that there are a lot of mitigating circumstances. And I personally, in answer to your question, I am not going to judge Potter until the end of next season. That is me.
All right.
That is me.
Well, if you don't want to defend it, I ain't defending for you.
Defend who?
Graham Potter and Chelsea. Wait, was Potter defending it or you didn't want to defend Chelsea?
Yeah, okay. I don't want to defend the players because I think that their performances have been subpar. But the only criticism I have, as I said, was I think sometimes his selections are not great. Like picking people like Jorginho over other players in our midfield, I ain't about that anymore. Sticking with Kai Havertz up top, I ain't about that anymore.
But, tell you long enough.
Anyways, so that's my only criticism of him. But I am not a Potter out. Far from.
All right, I've heard the Potter bashing for a while. Yeah, I've heard it. I've had arguments about it. But here's the thing. Here's my take. There are a couple of things. I think that one, this just my take on it. And this me looking from the outside, you might not be the same. But I feel like Chelsea fans, y'all have a really, really elevated
we are an entitled fan base. An entitled, spoilt fan base. In my opinion.
But I'm not talking about... Well, yeah, we know this. But I'm not talking about that aspect of it. I mean, in terms of how you all view Thomas Tuchel. I feel like... Yeah, seriously. I feel like Potter's criticism, and the clamour for him to be ousted as a manager stems from the fact that a lot of people didn't believe that Tuchel should have lost his job in the first place. And I feel like that stemmed from the fact that Tuchel won Champions League. Now, I don't want to get into all of that right now because we don't have the time. But I feel like that's the first thing that went against Potter, right? And like you said, he came at a time where the entire team and club are in a state of flux in terms of how the Abramovich sale went down and all that stuff. And then the subsequent ousting of Tuchel. Now, we've already discussed, whether or not Tuchel leaving, I think we did it early up in the season, would have been the right call or wrong call. That is entirely subjective and based on how you want to look at it. But I think that Potter has to be given time. So I agree with you on that standpoint. He has to be given time. There's a guy who came after the transfer window had already closed. He came in a very, very strange season where they had a whole World Cup break. And for the most part, from September onwards, you're playing 3 games a week.
Yep.
So there's not a lot of time to coach on your training field. He didn't bring in his own players, for example. All that stuff. Yes.
You haven't mentioned the injuries, so that's
Sorry.
so much things.
And he had a lot of injuries.
But that's my thing. Look at all the things you mentioned outside the injuries. It's so much.
Yeah. So he has had a lot of content with. Now here's the and this always be the sticking point for topics like this, or whether or not a manager should be given time. I think when you look at, because people will forget that Pep struggled to a certain extent his first year as well.
He barely
finished
made top
fourth.
4.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So Klopp, Pep, they would be afforded more time because there are managers with big reputations, having won at big clubs already before they got to the Premier League. So people will, give him a bit more time. I think Klopp was helped. Klopp went into finals, so he was helped by that as well, right? Even if his league performances were still inconsistent. Pep is Pep. Won everything everywhere, so you need time. Thing with Potter is, though, the question is, did Potter deserve to get a Chelsea job in the first place, right? That would be what? Because that stems from the Tuchel disappointment from certain sections of the Chelsea fan base. Did Potter deserve to get the Chelsea job? Because Chelsea, rightly, is regarded as a big job, right? No.
Did Lampard deserve to get a Chelsea job?
We know why Lampard got a Chelsea job. And if I was saying it before it was a thing to say. I said
understand, it. But it shows the irrationality of fans. You can't be questioning why somebody like Graham Potter.
No, yes, but I want to go through why he got a job, right?
But I need it. But maybe the fans need
it.
The fans
I know you don't need it.
You go ahead.
Exactly.
You go ahead.
You gotta stop with that,
I fully believe he deserved it.
You fully believe he deserved it?
Yes.
All right. I'll make an argument though. So, do you think? I remember I was also a fan of Potter, right? And I felt as though I said when we were looking at English coaches, I felt like he was probably one of the better ones. Maybe deserve a crack at one of the big clubs or a bigger profile of a team. I didn't think it would have been Chelsea that would have given him the opportunity, but obviously circumstances changed. He got a job.
Right.
Why did he get a job? He got a job because the stellar football Brighton played. And that's the only thing I could have won him a job. And when he went in for the interview with Bowley, and maybe he impressed in what he said. Right? But that's not credit. You said he deserved it. I don't think that is credential to deserve a big job, because at the end of the day, big teams need big managers. Generally, that comes with silverware attached, right? He doesn't have the silverware to back up getting a job. So that is an argument that might go against him, right? But I agree with you. He needs to be given time, right? And considering what I mentioned before, he hasn't been afforded that time. So it's very, very hard to judge. I personally, I watched a couple of Euro games of late because people that I know that are Chelsea fans have been chirping away about Potter and, fed up with the performances, etc., etc. And I'm like, it's really strange because Potter did so well at Brighton. And like you said, people want to give De Zerbi all the credit. Like, one person told me, oh, well, look at the Brighton manager. Why Brighton are doing better than Chelsea? No, I'm like, but Brighton stuck with continuity. What's the word?
Continuity.
Thank you. Continuity. Brighton, they went for a manager who plays a similar style.
Exactly.
So all the guy had to do was come and, keep it going, add to it. He can, and even then, even when you come to a job, you're not going to change everything immediately at the same time. I agree with you in terms of watching Chelsea of late. I did say like last 2 or 3 of your games, some of his selection has been surprising. I remember the game in League when you all lost to City. Then the FA Cup, he came back and he played the experienced guys. And it was like, I would have played some of the youngsters that had impressed me in the league game.
Agreed.
So some of these selections, are a bit strange.
Yeah.
Like you said, your team needs overhaul because you spent money on a few players, big money. And I've always maintained that I don't think that they were the answer. Maybe you're saying, like, you mentioned one I don't want to repeat after you, so I left it there. I tell you that boy in a good. You know what I'm saying? I tell you right now, I still want if he's really a German. You want to see passport. But anyhow, yeah. So like, I for me, they think, but I same time I'm not naive. So you said you would give him a whole entire full season. I wouldn't, because yes, he hasn't had money to spend, and yes, all the things I mentioned, and the injuries, etc., etc. But it's a result business. Okay. And a team like Chelsea, a club at the stature of Chelsea, can't get a man whole season doing the same thing that's happening now. So he got, like, if it was me, I would give him the end of the year, 2023. If Christmas time come and you still, I ain't seen a sign of improvement,
That's fair.
I can have a conversation.
That's fair.
I might go and make a change here.
But I also think Chelsea are going to be very different when a lot of our players come back.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to be different. Reece is going to be back soon.
Mm-hmm.
Our centre back, specifically Fofana. People forget Fofana has played twice for the season.
Mm-hmm.
Before, I think he got injured in the Champions League, and when I say twice his season, I think twice in the league. He got injured. We've had a lot to contend with, and I think when we get back, I mean, Kante played 90 minutes against Everton and 80 minutes against Spurs. And this is why I think I agree. I am inclined to agree with your end of 2023 assessment. Judge him when we have our best 11 on the pitch. Because one of the points that I forgot to make in my rant was stick 11 first team injuries on any side and they will be struggling like we are. I'm telling you. Take Arsenal's key fullback, key midfielder, key forward players out of their side. They're a different side. Same with Liverpool. We saw it in the season where Liverpool were dubbed the worst champions ever. Without Van Dijk, injuries to the forward line. You saw how they struggled. Key injuries to people at Man U. Key injuries. Well, City's a different beast because City got a really good squad. But my point is, let's judge Potter when he has our best players available to pick from. And then we see.
Yes, that is somewhat true to me. But I would still be cautious with that approach. Because for me, I always look at it as like this. Like, Potter's the manager now, but your key players or your players are injured, were not purchased by him. So for me, it's still a case where I always ask, someone said, well, little Brighton and because Brighton in terms of market value, Chelsea has a far more expensive squad than Brighton does, or team than Brighton does. But when you look at individual player, does the player have the attributes that the manager wants? So the players that you mentioned that are injured won't necessarily be Potter's cup of tea, to be honest.
That's true.
So what I would say is that Potter is still going to have to assess the members of his squad, injured or not injured, who he thinks can work going forward long term and be, in his vision, aligned with his vision of what a Chelsea player or a Chelsea team would be.
I agree.
Some of them will make it, some of them won't. Right? So he's going to try to bring his own players, and like you said, you mentioned some names that you would like to see moved on. Right? So
I didn't mention all though. I didn't mention all.
I know you didn't mention all.
But there are a lot.
Yeah, that you would like to see. I understand where you're coming from. For sure.
I think for me too, something that really epitomized it for me. Did you see the Fulham game?
Yes, I did.
João Felix came in, started, got criticized for that apparently.
For starting?
Yeah. He started.
I remember. He got sent off, right?
He got sent off. But strangely enough, I wasn't upset because I saw enough desire, fight, correct attitude from João Felix in 60 minutes that I've seen from most of our attackers all season. And I think that I still believe that there are a lot of players with attitude problems at Chelsea. I won't name them, but it's clear. It's clear sometimes when things go against us in games, heads drop. There's no fight. There's no resilience. And that's my issue as well. That's why I think too, and I think we talked about it, when you sign a player, it's not just about the abilities, about the attitude. And I think a lot of these players, a lot of them they do need to go. And we need players more than anything of the correct mentality. Because I saw somebody talking about it and I 100% agree. We lost JT, Gary Cahill, Frank Lampard, Ramirez. Those are players all kind of around the same time. And we may have replaced them, got centre-backs, got midfielders, but did we replace those characters, that leadership? I'm not sure we did. And there's a softness to Chelsea that I don't like. And it is evident. I heard Jamie Carragher actually called them soft after the 1-1 against Nottingham. And I wasn't upset because it's evident. You need, what do they call Klopp's side? Mentality monsters. You need mentality monsters. Because, for instance, the same fellow Mudra I mentioned earlier, he has a tattoo on his neck saying talent is not enough. And he was asked what it meant. And he said, because you still have to put in the work. You still have to work hard. You can't survive on your talent alone. That sort of mentality is what this dressing room needs. And I don't think it has it. So as much as people want to talk about Potter, oh, look at these players. And the reason I talk about look at the players is that you mentioned Thomas Tuchel. I saw a stat. Thomas Tuchel win rate in his last 18 Chelsea games was 44%. Do you know what Potter's win rate in his first 18 Chelsea games is?
Nope.
The same exact percent.
But interesting you said that because something that I was arguing to with someone before a couple of weeks ago about Chelsea and Potter. I said that like, he's always come back. That's why I knew, or that's why I have a feeling that is about people feel as though people are so upset that Tuchel lost the job because always should never get rid of Thomas Tuchel. And I'm like, but when you think about it, even if Putin didn't invade Ukraine and Abramovich still the owner, I ain't so sure that Tuchel will still be Chelsea coach. It might not be Potter, but I ain't so sure that Tuchel will still be in charge because when you think about it, Tuchel won Champions League, yes.
Right, to a few cup finals.
Went to a few cup finals. He spent big, but what was supposed to happen was that it was supposed to be another assault perhaps in Europe and an assault in league. And that didn't happen. And then if you look at how Chelsea started this season, before he get this out, I think it was maybe like 5-6 games at that point. It wasn't like he was setting the world late.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
And even from last season too, we were declining.
Exactly. So,
and I think the Champions League, you talked a bit about it off air as well, how, and you said it too, Champions League kind of gave us a kind of rose-tinted glasses with Tuchel, but you still have to be realistic. I think the Champions League run and the cup runs clouded the malaise that was happening in the league as well because we weren't great in the league. In the two completed I think it was the first season where we won Champions League, and then last season I think it was we scraped top 4 on both occasions. Scraped.
Right.
So Tuchel was not some savior. There's more that needs to change. And as I said, I remember being really upset about it because I love Tuchel too. But then when you hear about the disagreements that they had in terms of players, I even found out that Tuchel didn't even want to sign a midfielder. The owners pushed for Zakaria to come in because I guess they saw we needed bodies in midfield. Tuchel didn't want to sign a midfielder. Tuchel wanted to sell off our best talents, and he didn't want to buy young. He wanted to buy to win now, and that's not what these owners want to do. So for me, that more than anything is why I want to stick with Potter, because I want to back what the ownership wants to do with Chelsea Football Club. Chelsea Football Club has been run rottenly for a while. And people don't know about all the contracts that have been terminated because the players want out, but if Marina was around, Marina won't hold up for 20, 30 pounds for the players. Them certain things can't stand because you're stifling people's career and then you're creating an atmosphere at the club that ain't right. So I am backing what the new owners want to do with this side, and I'm backing the manager as a result. So I am not about saying Potter out or anything. I'm patient. I write off the season, but I do want to see progress on and off the pitch. That's all.
Another thing, I said, big teams need big managers. I already mentioned, why Potter got a job. Is that enough to get a Chelsea job? Debatable. It's similar to when Brendan Rodgers got a Liverpool job. He didn't win anything at that point. So where you get,
But
what
he
was
still
he?
did a decent job.
Ooh, it made me laugh. But you want to elaborate on what you mean by a decent job?
He almost took one to the title and he fought.
No, Luis Suarez almost took me to the title.
Oh, okay.
Ian Suarez fought Gerard slip and fall down.
Okay.
It's Luis Suarez almost took me to the title. Brendan Rodgers.
Let's not go down that road.
Get me started.
Yeah,
Brendan
don't
Rodgers.
get you started at
Get me
all.
started. Anyway.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, so I like I said, I think Potter does deserve a chance. I don't think as bad as, people who are emotionally reacting to the results want me to believe. And I will not, my position stays the same.
Yeah.
And I remember I made this point. I said Potter has been in charge since September, which is about, hold on, that is, it's about
3-4 months.
4 months, right? I was like, 3 to 4 months is not enough time.
It's not.
I don't care what the results are like. And my perception of teams or clubs who run the organization like that, where they hire someone to sack them after 10 games or, short space of time, I think it's stupid.
It is. You have to give people time. And I wish people will also start looking at it in terms of football terms. Look at it in terms of organizational terms. Think about yourself going into a new job and having to face adversity. Would you want to be sacked after 4 months? Would you like to be fired after 4 months? Or would you prefer to be given time
It's
to prove
stupid.
yourself?
Because then I will ask the question, well, then you were never really convinced by me in the first place.
Exactly.
Because if you were convinced I'm the right man to take this long term, or for a few years rather, then how can you just abandon and start over again so quickly?
Exactly.
I mean, it's relative because you have to take into consideration what the team or the club may have spent, blah blah stuff like that. How long he was there, Obviously, you still want to see encouragement, like the case it be. But like I said, we've said, Potter hasn't really had a chance to have a transfer window, a full transfer window yet. January transfer windows don't really count. So we'll see where it goes from here.
Right. So we should probably move on to some predictions before we wrap up. Some teams we'll be talking about twice because both Spurs, Man City, Man United have 2 games before we come again. So tomorrow we have Palace at home to United.
Oh, Palace at home to United. I watched Palace recently. It was against
Chelsea.
Yeah, you won, right? 1-0. I'll go Man U to Man U away. 1-0.
Yeah, I'll go a 2-0 Man U. City versus Spurs.
Lord. City versus Spurs. Man, it's that game. That game is
Thursday. At 4.
Wow. City 2-0.
Yeah, I agree. Saturday, Liverpool at home to Chelsea.
1-1.
Do not kill me, man. Say 1-1. Liverpool 2-1.
Okay. I appreciate your vote of confidence.
I hope it is a reverse change.
I know you are, but still.
Man City at home to Wolves Sunday.
City 3-0.
I'll be 4. Arsenal at home to United.
Arsenal. I will go 2-1 to Arsenal.
2-2 draw.
I was tempted to say 2-2, but
if there's a win, I think Man United nick it 3-2.
I was tempted to say 2-2 as well, but
I 2-2.
Someone tell me that. I know. I just feel like Arsenal score more goals than Man U, so I would give Arsenal a nod.
Well, man, like Rashford hot on form.
Keep going.
And the last game, Fulham at home to Spurs.
I saw Fulham recently too. It was against you. Right.
Without Mitrovic.
Right. Is he going to be back for that game?
He should be because it was just a suspension.
Okay, I'll go 2-2 draw.
3-2 Fulham.
You buy me. Yeah.
Fulham can be 2 up by halftime. Spurs can come back. But then we can have a winner from Fulham.
Interesting. All right, so we had some quick hits to go through. Before we wrap up.
Do we have to though?
Just some mentions.
Okay.
All right, so Barcelona won the Spanish Super Cup, I believe, against Real Madrid at the weekend. Did you see any of the game?
Let's see highlights.
Okay, I watched a bit of it. Yeah.
Okay.
How impressed have you been by Barca's upturning form under Xavi?
I was trolling them late last year, but they look good.
Was that part of that trolling? I don't think that's how trolled. Right? I was right, exactly. Yeah, but I mean, let's be realistic. There are only 2 teams in Spain in terms of financial point of view for the most part. Yes, Barca had a threat of falling a bit behind because of the financial troubles that they had. But once they they were still able to attract good players.
Yeah.
And once they do enough gradually to balance the books or what's not, and Xavi, I guess is a promising coach.
Yeah.
And he's going to be a for a time because he's Xavi.
Yeah, he is.
And they have some good young players coming through too. So
yeah. I think La Liga should be interesting because they have a 3-point lead. I think.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that.
Yeah, but I think it's a manner in which Real lost to Barca at the weekend, where Barca was, pretty much superior
Yeah.
in most aspects of the game. So
Yeah. True.
yeah. So, we should have had Demar,
Yeah.
here to say a bit more.
I'm sure
yes.
he's happy.
Of course.
Then we had Napoli absolutely slamming, mauling Juve.
Yeah, I think it's 33 years of hurt or something like that. That is on the cusp of being broken. Napoli are really close to winning the first Serie A title since
They look really good.
Maradona's team.
They look really, really good.
Yeah.
They look really good.
Yeah.
Backing them to do it, man.
Yeah, I feel like unless
because I think it's 5 points. 5 points is the gap now
between
between them and Milan.
Yeah, I think unless there's some, I don't know, but they're playing well.
Yeah, they are really impressive.
So looks like they will be deserving winners of Serie A.
Yeah, I think so too.
Did we have another topic? Or that was
no,
it?
we just gotta talk about our stuff.
Oh yes, go ahead. Floor's yours.
As you can see, we have some nice cups here. Donated by Whole Health Pharmacy. They keep things both hot and cold. As you saw when I was trying to have a conversation with Andrew, he did drinking out he the cup and enjoying his very cold water. It was very cold, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, you can get these at Whole Health Pharmacy. They're located in Stone St. Peter, but you can always hit up any of us if you're interested in getting any. And we have our little logo on it as well. Could hit us up if you want a logo as well.
Mm-hmm.
And as Andrew said at the beginning, we have a new set. We're going to continue to make some improvements. But for right now, we're just trying to...
We really need to.
Yeah.
This bitch has been following all through the damn episode. I'm not sure if we're going to make it a blooper or what's not. But I feel so embarrassed.
Y'all missed it. Andrew was in the middle of something. And then the picture just fall down.
But that depends if Shaq take it over or not.
I really hope he doesn't, because it was so funny. It's almost as if it was rebelling against what you were saying. I can't remember what you were saying.
I think it was talking about... Liverpool was talking about...
Oh, no, you was talking about Chelsea.
What's it?
Yeah.
Happened twice. It almost happened the second time too.
Yeah.
So yeah, we definitely need to continue making improvements.
Whereas my Chelsea winner's picture has been nothing but a model student.
But I feel like you sabotage me. Cause I feel like you might have set it up. Yeah, because I come in here and the pictures are already set up.
Right.
So,
Right. Anyways, so we're going to continue to
I won't play past you.
Oh, whoa. We're going to continue to upgrade so we can, make ourselves look professional and stuff like that.
Well, she won't look professional. I here for the kids. I here for the banter. I just sipping my water. But keep going. Anything else?
No, that's it. You could sip your water. Sip your water.
I'll sip my water to any show as you mentioned. You normally end with like the Instagram tag and
right,
exactly.
Yes. Forget. It's been a while, guys. So you can follow us on Instagram, the Dugout_podcast. I got it right. Congratulations, Marissa. You can follow us at our individual handles, and I can't believe we've never done this, but please also follow Spirit Life Studios. You can find them on Instagram as well. Shaq does wonders with our video and our audio and our setting up, so make sure you give him a follow. If any musicians out there want to come down and record, we got a nice little recording booth here as well. So yes, that's about it for me.
Yeah. If Liverpool beat Chelsea next week, the weekend, sorry, you can't back Tuesday, or should I invite another guest?
You could come.
Let me just ask now: Are we going to invite another guest, or are you going to join us for your take on the game?
I cannot make that decision. Then again, no, I have written off this season, so I'll still be here.
Okay.
But if it's a really bad performance, then I'll message you and let you know about my availability for Tuesday.
Interesting.
Yeah. As long as you don't come in here saying you never walk alone.
Nah, being that serious.
Okay.
I would have done that if 3 points would put me in pole position for the title.
Oh, okay.
Or you know what I mean? So they're not gonna brag.
Okay. I just making sure.
I think I still have 28 points. Am I? Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We both have 28 points.
Good. So like beating Chelsea didn't mean nothing to me. You know what I'm saying? That didn't mean nothing to me. That just means that it's one step away from relegation at this point. You see? Nothing.
It means send me though. So Chelsea FC, do the business on Saturday. Please don't make me shame. Don't make me go come in here and cry. So that's it from us. We hope you've enjoyed this show and we'll see you again next week.
I'm pretty sure some of them ain't part of cup of tea either. So,
True.
in terms of are they going to play football that Potter wants?
Clearly Clearly, Sully is disagreeing with you.
You got cut out, right?
Yeah, you cut out.
You could have left it and left it as a joke.
Nah, the joke that we want by here.
SMH.
That's a joke you want by here.